What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Kendra. To all of my new subscribers, I want to say thank you guys for subscribing. I think right now my channel is about 1,600, a little over 1,600, and it's because of you I was able to get accepted into the YouTube partner program. So I just want to say thank you for that. In this video today, I want to address some of the comments and maybe some questions or just some statements that was made on the most popular video that I have on this channel. A few weeks ago, I posted a video talking about my experience in a recent contract, in a high-paying contract that I quit. And the name of that video is titled, I think it's titled, I Quit Toxic Work Environment. But I want to go ahead and address some of, like I said, the comments that I had been reading. And believe it or not, I read through all of my comments. Some of them I don't get a chance to respond to because I'm usually either like about to go to sleep or I'm at work and I'm like, okay, I'll just get to it later. And unfortunately, I don't always get to it, but I do try to respond to all of them. Now, the first thing I want to address has to do with the money. This comment that I received was pretty recent, and the comment states, "You weren't making $135 an hour, because that equivalents to $270,000 a year, and nurses don't make that much money." Well, typically pre-pandemic, yes, nurses did not get paid that much. The only nurses that would make that much money would be nurse anesthetists and maybe nurse consultants that own their own business that can charge a premium rate depending on whatever services they're provided. But yeah, as nurses, we were not getting paid in the hundreds for an hourly wage. But I think you forgot we are in a pandemic, or we are slowly coming out of a pandemic. Let's look at the past 2 years of how COVID ravaged the entire world, okay? Ravaged the entire world. And who stood up and stood out during COVID? None other than nurses. Like, I was just thinking the other day, I was actually kind of mad that I didn't get to stay home and enjoy just being off. Like many other people in many other industries, they were just off. Some people formed new businesses. They were out there gardening. People started YouTube channels. People were just getting their whole lives in order. And guess where I was? In a multiple different ICUs, taking care of the sickest patients in the hospital, all right? So we were in a pandemic. Remember, being a nurse means that you have a skill set. Nurses, especially working in direct care at the bedside, we use our hands. So my hands are my bread and butter as a nurse. Without my hands, I can't effectively be a nurse at the bedside in direct care. And because I have a skill set, same with a plumber, an electrician, a person that does HVAC, someone that uses their hands, a carpenter, I use my hands. I have a skill. So when the pandemic came in and COVID was rampant, I had a skill that was needed. I had a skill that people could not survive without this specific skill, meaning that the pay had to increase, all right? The pay that nurses were receiving had to be increased because we were in a crisis. We were in a pandemic. So during the pandemic, it was not uncommon for nurses to receive an hourly wage of upwards to $150, $155 an hour. Like, you think $135 is a lot of money, which it is a lot of money or hourly, but that contract that I quit, prior to me signing on, the nurses were actually getting paid $150 an hour, and then they reduced it to $135. So when a hospital or an institution is in crisis mode, they have the money, they're going to pay. So that's the reason why nurses were earning a premium rate, is because of COVID. And this contract right here, the reason why the nurses are still earning that premium rate is because the hospital don't have nurses to staff their units, specifically the ICU. Being an ICU nurse is a skill. You have to have a skill set, all right, to take care of those critically ill patients. And if the hospital cannot keep and sustain staff to take care of those patients, they're going to have to come out their pockets some money. And that's the reason why they're paying the nurses that much money. So on average, pre-pandemic, and even now that COVID has died down, of course, we're not getting paid that high premium rate. I mean, you have some places you might be able to get some decent paying contracts, But that is the reason for that $135 an hour. And of course, it's not sustainable. I knew that it was a rate that wasn't going to be available for a very long time. But I don't know why you find it so hard that nurses were making that much money. Let me also go ahead and just tell you all that prior to me signing on to that contract, you guys probably think, a lot of people in the comments also thought that I was insane for quitting that contract because the hourly rate was so high. But keep in mind, I was making that same hourly rate in my previous contract. As a matter of fact, going back to 2021, late 2020, December 2020, going into 2021, I signed on to a hospital, a smaller hospital here in Maryland in a more rural area, and I was making $135 an hour. Now that contract was supposed to be 13 weeks, but once COVID died down, they canceled the contract when we were like about 9 weeks in, right? So cool. I left that contract. I went to another hospital where I was making about $125 an hour, right? Then that contract, I did the 13 weeks, ended it. That same smaller hospital that I was at initially making $135 an hour, COVID surged again, and guess what? They brought us back to help out with the COVID crisis at $135 an hour. So when I came to this other hospital where the environment was so toxic and was making $135 an hour, I was impressed. I've been making that money. Like, I've been making that money for the past 6 months, in total 9 months, if you want to count when I was out there earlier on in the year. So to me, it was just like, okay, like whatever. The only difference for the contract that I quit was that that contract offered overtime, meaning that anything past 40 hours, which you were going to do 40 hours, would pay you time and a half, and you would do at least 48 to 60 hours a week. So that was the difference. But my value system, I don't really prioritize money the way some people do. Like, money is not everything to me. I value my time, my mental health, and my well-being more than money. So at any time, if I'm working at a place, I don't care how much money you're paying me. If it's going to disturb me mentally, if it's going to cost me my peace, that's it for me. There's no amount of money you can pay me to disturb my peace. Another point I want to make while we're on the topic of money and nursing is that there are a lot of people complaining that nurses were making so much money and nurses are getting paid this high amount of money. But to be quite honest, and I think a lot of you will agree with me, there is no dollar amount you can put on the care that a good nurse or even an average nurse provides to her patients. There's not a price tag on that. Keep in mind that for nurses like myself that work in the ICU setting, and even nurses that don't work in the ICU, there are times we are taking care of patients who are the sickest in the hospital. You have patients that are unconscious. You have patients that can't verbalize their needs, patients that can't tell you what they want at the time, and you are responsible for anticipating those needs and meeting those needs. There's not a price tag that you can put on that. So even if a nurse is getting paid $135 an hour or $150 an hour, you may think that's a lot of money. But is it really a lot of money when I'm here taking care of your loved one? When you're not even here? When I'm the one cleaning up their stool, cleaning up their urine, picking out their noses, cleaning their ears. When I am the one determining, okay, does she or he need a blanket? Should I take this sheet off? He or she has a temperature. The temperature is not going away with the Tylenol I'm giving them. What should I do? Should I put ice packs on? Should I give them a cool bath? There's so much that goes into taking care of patients, and there's so much thought into how nurses care for their patients and intervene for their patients' safety and for their patient to have positive outcomes. There is not a price tag you can put on that. So if you think $135, oh, that's too much money, or that's a lot of money nurses were making, when I'm taking care of your mother, God forbid, if that's your mother laying in the bed, and I'm giving her this top-notch care, you can't pay me for that. All right, so just keep that in mind. Another popular issue that I was noticing in the comments had to do with, of course, ding, ding, ding. If you guessed cell phone, then you guessed correctly. There were a lot of people saying that they don't agree with my perspective and my thoughts on cell phones in the workplace. And that is fine. Everyone has their own thoughts. Everyone has their own feelings, their own ideologies as it pertains to cell phone usage in the house. Drop the line that one of my good friends says all the time. She says, one thing's for certain, two things for sure. The cell phones, it's not going anywhere, okay? Cell phones are here to take over our lives. And the fact that people are managing their entire lives on cell phones, it's absolutely ludicrous to me to think that you guys are going to limit or try to tell people they shouldn't have their phones at work. Do you guys understand that this is the way people are communicating these days? Like, this is the digital age, and we have so much coming to us in vast amounts at the speed that is coming. You can't stop the takeover of the cell phone. And I find it funny that people are like, oh, well, when you're at work, you shouldn't have your cell phone at work. Why? Why not? Is it impossible for me to do my job as a nurse with my cell phone present? It's not impossible for me to do my job. Being a nurse, yes, it's very important, but I am a good nurse and I still check my cell phone periodically throughout the day, especially when I have downtime. If I am working on a shift and the shift is moving super slow, my patient is well taken care of, I'm going to prop my phone up and I might watch a YouTube video. Is that interfering with patient care? How? If my vent alarm goes off, as soon as it goes off, I'm going into the room. As soon as my patient call bell goes off, I'm going into the room. I would love to see research, or I'd like to hear of anything that's happened in the news where a patient safety or a patient had a very poor outcome based on the nurse's cell phone usage. There's not even data to prove that. So where are you guys getting this whole thing from that, oh, like I had one person saying in the comment, oh, well, if you're my nurse, I wouldn't want you on your cell phone. Mind your business. Me being on my cell phone has nothing to do with you. You're getting your blood pressure medicines on time. Your pain medicines are on time. You're clean, you're dry, you're repositioned. What is the problem? See, that's the thing. A lot of people, how do I say it? A lot of people go with what the standards are, and the standards are being set by people who are at the top, and they just want you to follow their rules, keep you there so that way they can maintain their money, they can keep all the wealth, and you're down here running. Now, you have the majority of the nursing workforce is made up of women, right? So that means that a lot of them are mothers, caregivers, so on and so forth. If I'm at work for 12 hours a day and I have school-age children or high school or even a kid in college, a kid that's driving, my cell phone is with me at all times. You know why? Because I need to know if the school nurse is going to call me saying that my child is ill. I need to know if I get an email from the school that school is closing early because the air conditioning system is broken or the heating system is broken. I need to know that my teenage child, who is a driver on the road, arrived to her location safely. That's the reason why my cell phone stays with me at the nurse's station. Wherever I'm sitting, I have my cell phone with me. And most nurses have their cell phones out with them because we have more going on than just work. Just because I'm at work doesn't mean that the company owns me. I still have a life outside that I need to attend to, okay? And this is the way we are receiving information now. And that's the reason why in a lot of my responses to those comments that were like the cell phone police people, I said, I am so happy that you guys will be dealing with the Gen Zs to come. Like, these Gen Zers are not playing, because guess what? Everything is going to be on the phone, or everything is going to be on this tablet. I don't know how you guys are going to deal. What's happening is there's a need to control. And ultimately, that's another reason why nurses are fed up and are leaving the bedside in large amounts, because the control is too much. Number one, let me just explain it to you like this. This is one of the best ways for me to put it. We were in a pandemic for 2 years, right? For 2 years. And guess what? As nurses, we showed up and we got the job done. You had many hospitals where physicians were not coming in. They were not going into those patients' rooms. Some of them would be at home on an iPad, rounding on the patients. Guess who was there taking care of those COVID patients? Nurses. Did the cell phones interrupt at that time? No, we were still on our cell phones. Guess what? During COVID, I can't tell you the amount of times I used my cell phone to FaceTime families, so that way their loved ones can talk to them or they can see their loved ones in the room. So how bad are nurses having their cell phone? Like, how horrible is that? These cell phones come in so handy in so many different ways. For example, God forbid, in the world that we live in today with all this active shooting that's going on, even in the hospital setting, you want for me not to have my cell phone out, or you want for me not leave it in my bag? I'm not going to leave it in my bag. And once it's in my pocket, I'm checking it. Okay, we live in a different world than we did 15, 20, 25 years ago. You guys are stuck in the past. This whole ideology about, oh, you shouldn't have your phone at work. Why not? Like I said, this is how we get information. This is how we are communicating. God forbid, if there's a gunman on the loose, this is the first place I'm going to get the notification. If there's an Amber Alert and a child is kidnapped, God forbid, this is where I get the notification. And you guys want for me not to have this or turn it off and put it away and put it in my bag? It's not happening. This is a different time. And as nurses, there are so many different rules that we have to abide by and follow. For example, as nurses, we don't get a grace period. Okay, if we punch in 7:01, it's considered a late. As nurses, we can't do this. We don't even get to park in a decent parking lot. A lot of us park away from the hospital and have to shuttle in. Me, I park on the streets and I walk in. There's so many things that nurses do not get respected for, and we don't get treated with respect from these institutions. And then to top it off, you guys want to come with all of these rules about, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Let me ask you this. Before the cell phones came into play, back in the days, it was reading books. Back in the days, they had a problem. Oh, no reading a book at the nurse's station. So let me ask you this, because one person in the comments stated, well, if I'm a patient, I don't want my nurse being on her cell phone. Would you rather me read a book? Would it be okay to you if I'm reading one of those ratchet hood books? Would that make you feel better than me being on my cell phone? How about if I'm reading a book and it's actually on my phone? Is that a problem too? People will always find something to complain about. Corporations will always find something to try to keep their workers in line. And as far as I'm concerned, the battle with these cell phones is going to be on and popping because, like I said, the Gen Zs are not having it. Anyway, I am going to go ahead and end this video here. I'm not going to keep on my rant. Thank you guys for watching, subscribing to my channel, and liking my videos. I will see you all in another video.